The Philadelphia Eagles' second-year defensive tackle Jalen Carter had an absolute monster game. The guy wreaked havoc on so many different plays. This was arguably his best game of his career. The guy statistically had 15 impactful plays. And I want to break down what this guy did, right? I want to break down some of the techniques he utilized. I think the Rams have two really good guards, including Kevin Dotson, number 69, the starting right guard of the Rams. Very solid guard, arguably a top 5 guard in the NFL. And Jalen Carter basically whooped this guy's ass multiple times. So today we're going to talk about it. I'm excited for this one. I should note, as we kind of get into this video, Jalen Carter was double teamed on 34 of his 70 snaps in yesterday's game against the Rams. So this guy was double teamed like crazy. But it makes sense, right? Jalen Carter is one of those guys that if you don't double team him, if you're not sliding towards him, he's going to wreck a game plan. Right? And to me, that's one of the values that a guy like Jalen Carter brings, because for a team like the Los Angeles Rams, usually you get Kevin Dotson against the team's best defensive tackle and you can one-on-one block him. But Jalen Carter is different. Jalen Carter, in my opinion, is the best defensive tackle in the NFL. And I think we're at the point where we can definitely say that. And I think most people that are tape watchers, guys that grind tape, guys that understand technique, I think most of these guys would also agree with that. Jalen Carter is absolutely special. And let's just break down some of these plays and really get into what it is that makes this guy such a special football player. So one of the things we got to realize that separates defensive tackles that are great versus defensive tackles that are kind of average right away is going to start with movement. A movement to me is the most important part of a defensive tackle being able to be a good player versus an average player. And what I mean by movement is the ability to change direction, the ability to stop yourself, change direction, and quickly start and pick up, get back to 100% speed, and just be able to move, generally speaking, left to right. And I'm telling you guys, it is one of the differences between great defensive tackles and the average guys. You look at some of the best defensive tackles right now in the NFL, and these guys can move really well. And on this one here, it is a defensive line game. Nolan Smith does a phenomenal job on this one, being able to pick off the guard. You can basically give him half a sack for this one because the way he slants towards the guard is absolutely incredible. First and foremost, the one thing with Nolan Smith on this play is he's going to start this upfield. He's going to get that offensive tackle thinking this is some sort of speed move, only for him to jump back to the inside. And as he jumps inside, look at him take out the guard on this one. He's going to leverage himself right to the inside shoulder. So even if the offensive tackle on this one gets off of Nolan Smith and he comes back around to Jalen Carter, the fact that Smith is already on the side of this guard, the guard has no shot to actually switch this. Now with that, you're going to basically get two guys on Smith. Jalen Carter is able to come around and get the sack. Now I don't want to overlook the fact that on this one, Jalen Carter has to also change direction. Right? He has to set up this guard, get the guard looking away from the defensive end. And Carter does that perfectly, right? So Carter's going to fake an inside move on this one. He's going to go outside. He's going to fake inside, and that inside move's going to get the guard looking at Carter. He's going to slightly turn his body towards the inside as well. And that's going to allow Smith to take the outside and get that corner. And with that, you get a successful defensive line game. This is 3rd and 3, and just like that, you get to the quarterback. Just a really good job by both of those guys on this one. You got another really nice play here by Jalen Carter. He's going to end up drawing the hold. This is 1st and 10, first play of the second quarter. Just a really good job by Carter to be able to essentially draw that hold. Now, one of the things some people are going to miss within this play is the fact that Carter is actually being double teamed on this play. So you see right away, this is going to be a play action. So the offensive tackle is going to almost quick set Jalen Carter. They're almost going to make it look like they're trying to run block. Maybe it's some sort of duo concept. You're going to see the guard also kind of ends up pulling out towards the left. And that's to try to suck in these linebackers to potentially hit it right behind them. Now, of course, with that, you're going to end up double teaming Jalen Carter. Carter's going to go right over the top of the first guy. And then he's going to end up swiping and hitting the corner of the right tackle. And of course, he's going to draw the penalty, and the penalty comes out on this one. That's a really good job by Jalen Carter. The fact that this guy's double teamed and he's going right through these double teams is incredible. And of course, Kevin Dotson, I think, is a top 5 guard. And Kevin Dotson was struggling to block Jalen Carter, right? Like, Carter was an absolute superstar yesterday. And you can make the argument right after Saquon Barkley, no one had a bigger impact in this game than Jalen Carter. On the defense side of the football, he was wrecking havoc. There's so many plays where this guy was in there and just making it hard for the Rams to push the ball downfield. And to me, I think Jalen Carter is an absolute superstar. I think he is the best defensive tackle in the NFL. And he just wins really quickly. And you get plays like this where he's able to kind of get after it. This was a really nice job by Carter. Because if you look at this wide receiver here running almost like this circus route, he does kind of get open on the top of this route. If the quarterback's able to throw it a little bit better, maybe a little bit further to the outside, this is potentially a catch and potentially you're in field goal range, right? And Jalen Carter had other plans. Not 100% sure if he tips the ball, but it does look like he tips it to me. I'm not 100% sure if he does. I think he does tip this, right? To me, it looks like he ends up getting in there. He gets that right hand in there, right there. Maybe he hits the elbow a little bit. But these are impactful plays, right? Because you have a guy open, and Matthew Stafford's generally not missing guys open, right? He's a good accurate passer, has really good ball placement. But this one gets broken up because of Jalen Carter. Now, let's not overlook the actual move that this guy's utilizing going up against a good offensive lineman. This is one of his go-to moves. This is one of the things he does against guys that are going to quick set him. So on this one here, Kevin Dotson's going to actually come forward into Jalen Carter. As opposed to saying, hey, I'm going to maybe stand up, maybe I'm going to step back a foot. Usually when a quarterback has like a 5 or 7 step drop, you might go backwards. But sometimes you still can quick set it if you really want to. It's a way for the guard to potentially change it up going up against these defensive linemen. But when you're going to quick set Jalen Carter, he has that move, right? Which is essentially going to be to shift his body weight to the left. You see him come out. He puts the right foot into the ground. Left hand comes up. Left hand punches. Jumps towards the left. Right arm comes over the top. And he basically makes himself skinny. He changes direction essentially within this one. And the offensive lineman gets caught leaning forward. And then, of course, Jalen Carter hits that corner. The double team there is not enough to slow him down. Just a really, really good job right there by Carter. Jalen Carter basically played every single snap yesterday against the Eagles, which is not something he's done a whole lot over the course of his career. Carter's come off the field on certain downs and distances, but Vic Fangio understood the importance of having a guy like Carter out there. And of course, Carter absolutely dominated, right? Play in, play out, this guy was in there. Of the 70 snaps he had, basically a third of them were impacted by Carter in some sort of way. More than that, do not overlook the fact that if you're double teamed on 34 of your 70 snaps, well, what that means is there's other guys that are going to essentially be running free, and there's other guys that may be able to actually make impacts on a specific play because of the fact that you're being double teamed. But of course, do not overlook the actual plays that Jalen Carter did make. Do not overlook the impactful plays that he basically helped change the game, including this forced fumble here. 2nd and 2, the Philadelphia Eagles basically get a turnover, right? And this is 100% because of Jalen Carter. And this play right here changed the game, right? Because the score right now was 15-16. The Rams had the football. There's 15 minutes left in this game. This is essentially the first play of the fourth quarter. And Jalen Carter flips the entire game with this play, right? And this was one of many plays where he essentially changed the game. But to me, this was one of the most impactful because of the fact that it is a forced fumble. And it's just a really, really nice job by Jalen Carter now. This is going to be a split zone concept. And had this tackle actually gotten in front of Jalen Carter, there were a ton of possible lanes for the running back to hit this. Now I want to show this to you guys. I'm going to stop it here in a second. You're going to see that Kevin Dotson's going to slingshot number 97. He's basically going to force a Jomo upfield, and with that, you're going to basically have a huge cutback option on this one. Between all of these guys here, as well as here, the running back has a massive lane to be able to pick up maybe 10 or 15 yards. But of course, Jalen Carter does what he always does, right? If you're going to try to down block Jalen Carter, he gets over the down block. If you're going to try to cut him off the way the tackle has to here, he's going to get past that. To me, the fact that Jalen Carter's responsibility is inside of this tackle, and the fact that this is actually going to be a zone run towards that side, there's just no way anyone's going to cut off a guy like Carter. He does a really good job getting his hands to the offensive tackle, as you see here. He's going to push this guy, get past him, stay to the inside, stays within the run fit, even though there's a massive lane there, and then he throws that right hand, gets the ball out of there. Just a really, really good job by arguably the best defensive tackle in the NFL. But this was not all the different plays that this guy had, right? Jalen Carter had so many positive, impactful plays, even from this point forward, because the game was not technically over, right? The Eagles, after that fumble, actually had to settle for a field goal, and they were still only up by 4 points. So technically, the Rams could have driven downfield, scored a touchdown, or at least kicked field goal, made it a 1-point game. But again, Jalen Carter had a completely different idea, right? Jalen Carter looked at it like, we need to seal this game, and he got after it, right? So here's another one. He's going to slant to the inside on this one. This is going to be a designed slant towards the inside. You'll see all these guys end up slanting to the inside. They're going to bring a guy off the left edge here. You can see, I think, that's Zach Bond there coming off the side. But you can see Jalen Carter slants into the center on this one. And as soon as he slants into the center, look at how he's going to set this center up to start leaning to the right. He's going to attack the right side of the center, which is this side here. And then he's going to come back essentially to the other side. So he starts this to the right. He switches to the left. He's going to pull him with the left arm. And then essentially the right arm's going to come over the top. And with that, he's going to be able to beat the center. And with that, he's going to generate pressure. And he's going to actually break this pass up, right? He actually gets a hit on the quarterback's arm on this one. And he gets credit for a pass breakup, essentially, right? To be able to kind of swat the ball. That's a really, really good job right there to kind of get to the quarterback and force the quarterback into a bad pass and situation. There's a couple more plays I want to show you guys. Jalen Carter, I think, really came alive, I'd say, in the last, 6 minutes of this game. The guy wrecked havoc, essentially, right? So here's another one where he's going to go up against the center, and he's going to basically end up beating the center, right? Understanding the situation, understanding kind of, it's a 7-point game at this point. You can basically put the game away with essentially making some big plays, right? And he's going to essentially bull rush the center on this one, and then he's going to take that bull rush. Left arm's going to pull, right arm's going to come over the top, right? It's just the same move that this guy's utilized multiple times. And with that, as he pressures Matthew Stafford, Stafford has to step up within the pocket. So he's going to step up within the pocket, and you get the second-year defensive tackle here to get in there and essentially wrap it up and bring it down. Jalen Carter's getting in there and being super disruptive, and that's allowing some of these other guys to kind of get in there and make plays, right? It's allowing other guys to wrap up and bring the quarterback down for a sack. And then, of course, to wrap this video up, let's just get into the last 2 plays of the game. Jalen Carter basically put this game away, right? Jalen Carter basically made the final 2 plays. And the second to last play was the play where he actually ends up getting the sack. And it's just a really, really good job by Jalen Carter, right? He's going to end up going right past the center, just straight up beats him, gets to the quarterback, brings him down. And a 3rd and 2 essentially turns into a 4th and 11, right? This play right here, with the fumble, probably impacted this game more than any other play, right? And the crazy thing is this guy had 14 or 15 plays where he single-handedly wrecked, right? And if you're running 70 or 75 plays and 14 or 15 of those get altered by one guy, that's a crazy ass rate, because if every other guy alters maybe 2 plays, you're basically dominating on the defense side of the football. You get another one where Jalen Carter just straight up beats the center. I don't know exactly what happens with the center on this one. I think he probably thought there was a defensive line game coming. But again, the movement by Jalen Carter is incredible. The center thinks that a defensive line game is coming, so he looks over here towards number 97, right? You can see him turn that helmet towards number 97. At the same time, Kevin Dotson, the right guard, turns over towards Nolan Smith. And Jalen Carter basically just fakes out the center. And you see, just like that, Jalen Carter, just with that movement, is able to get there. I mean, to me, this is such a great job by Carter to be able to get the sack. And then the final play of the game, 4th and 11, the game's on the line. Matthew Stafford's going to throw it to his wide receiver. And one of the things that people aren't going to look at with this final play is that Matthew Stafford throws this before he really should have thrown it. And the reason why is because Jalen Carter was coming directly at him. He understood he didn't have much more time. So he had to throw this ball before the receiver even turned around. So again, Jalen Carter won't get credit for the final play, but he should absolutely deserve credit for this final play. You're going to see Matthew Stafford, as soon as he takes the football here, he's going to look directly at Jalen Carter, essentially. Within this play, at some point, he's going to turn his vision, he's going to turn that helmet, and he's going to feel Jalen Carter running directly at him. And Matthew Stafford hasn't even finished his drop back, right? Like you can see, he's still in that drop back. He's still dropping back. I think it's a 5-step drop on this one. Gets the ball 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he hasn't even finished his drop back yet, and Jalen Carter's in his face. So he has to throw the football before his wide receiver even turns. All right, so if you keep an eye on Stafford, he's throwing the ball. The receiver has not really finished this route. The receiver kind of runs maybe a little too far. Maybe he slips on this one. But again, if the quarterback had a little bit more time, maybe he delivers a pass where it's a little bit more accurate. Maybe the ball placement's a little bit better. But again, Jalen Carter had different ideas, right? And again, once again, it's just that movement. To me, it's absolutely special. Fakes inside, comes back outside, and you just see how quick this is. Like, think about this from the center's perspective, right? The center is also just kind of moving and mirroring Jalen Carter. And the second Carter goes from right back to the left, the center should be able to hopefully mirror that, and you're going to see the center's just way too off balance. And it's not even off balance, right? Jalen Carter just moves at an elite pace. He moves differently than most defensive linemen. And the center of the Rams found that out, obviously, as did some of the other guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, man. The support by Eagles fans on this channel has been absolutely incredible this year. Obviously, the Eagles, I said this early on, and some of you guys might remember, But I said the Eagles defense is absolutely incredible this year. And the scheme is obviously a big part of it with Vic Fangio, so you got to give a lot of credit to him. But Nolan Smith was another guy that I've been defending, and he's finally coming on, and I think people are starting to see that as well. And of course, Jalen Carter, I basically said from the time final year with him at Georgia kind of started, said this guy's going to be one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. Arguably ever, right? One of the greatest, and he's definitely living up to that hype that I had for him. And Eagles fans should be excited, man. It's a really, really solid team. I am going to try to get into the offensive linemen maybe in a couple of days, really break down some of what they were able to show as well. And of course, before we end the video, I want to just take a second to give a big shout out to the sponsor of this channel, because this content would not be possible without Underdog. If you guys have never utilized Underdog before, trust me, man, you guys are missing out. I don't do traditional fantasy sports that often. I did do one league this year, but generally speaking, I'm not really doing it anymore. And that's mostly because of Underdog. Underdog has this game that I really, really enjoy. It's called Pick'em. Essentially, you're going to go out there and just make picks that you think are going to be right. They'll have pretty much every pick you can think of for every player, and they have multiple categories as well. So an example would be, I think Aiden O'Connell is going to throw for 125 yards. And you're essentially just going to pick higher on that, right? I think he'll have more than 125 yards. You might say, hey, Dak Prescott's going to have at least 2 touchdowns, and pick higher on that. You might say Caleb Williams is going to have a rushing touchdown. And some of those stats also give you multipliers, right? So usually for quarterbacks rushing and in, right? That's something most quarterbacks aren't doing every single week. You'll get like a 4x multiplier on that. So depending on the multiplier, depending on how many picks, you can turn $5 into $400, $1,000, right? Whatever it ends up being. Obviously, it depends on the multiplier, but Underdog to me is one of those places that I pretty much do every single week at this point. Very fun. It makes like watching the Jets and the Dolphins without Tua. It makes them interesting, right? So check out Underdog. If you guys have never used them before, it is the best place. Trust me when I say that. Go to underdogfantasy.com, use my promo code that you guys see on the screen, or use the app. I recommend the app. So now with that being stated, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time with another video.